the term blank check comes from, that it really, it's not only about that seems to be an endless supply of money to fund these military actions, but there really is a sort of carte blanche, if you will, that these have been used anytime that they're sort of the convenient way to justify actions through successive administrations, I might add, that we believe actually are a form of war, and that also threaten instability and greater insecurity. And so that's one of the reasons we really have focused on trying to repeal these authorizations for the use of military force, and to force Congress to take back the debate and to really authorize. And one of the things that I'm most excited about, and I know you are too, is that the 120 FCNL advocacy teams across the country are really focused on this year. And these are powerful local groups of citizen activists who work together in a very effective way to build relationships with their members of Congress. And I know many of them are on the call with us today. But let's get from you, Heather, the most recent up-to-date activity in Congress on the AUMFs to put a stop to endless wars, because I know there's a lot of both discussion and I think some bills coming along. So what's going on there?
Yeah, no, there have been some really exciting developments in Congress this year already. So Representative Barbara Lee from California, who was actually the only member in the entire Congress to vote against the 2001 AUMF, she has introduced two bills. One would immediately repeal the 2002 Iraq AUMF, which was passed to authorize the Iraq War and has since been used to justify actions far beyond that war. And then she's also introduced a bill to sunset the 2001 AUMF after 8 months, meaning it would expire, the 2001 AUMF would expire 8 months after that bill became law. So currently the 2002 Iraq AUMF bill has 58 co-sponsors, although I know there are more because we put out a request today for more to co-sponsor, and I already received some reply saying, my boss has already agreed to co-sponsor. We're just waiting for it to be updated. So that's really exciting. And then the 2001 AUMF sunset bill, 8-month sunset bill, that has 46 co-sponsors. So, and they're both bipartisan, actually, I should say. So that's also really exciting. And another really recent thing that we found out was that the Committee of Jurisdiction in the House Foreign Affairs Committee, is looking to move forward with the 2002 Iraq AUMF bill, to take that up in committee and move it forward. We've heard possibly as early as March. Wow. So that is really exciting. This has never gone this far. In Congress, we've had other sorts of votes and things like that, but we've never actually had the Committee of Jurisdiction take up this bill and move it forward. So it's really exciting to see that the new chair of that committee, Chairman Meeks, is looking to move forward with this bill.
It is exciting. And we've talked before already this year about how a new administration and a new Congress is really going full force on so many issues that are important to us. But I think, Heather, I'd love to have you talk just a little bit about why the importance of having people take action on this, and why we can't just wait for the Congress to say, well, we think they're going to do this. What difference does it make for people to just continue to be very assertive about talking to members? And I know we have an action alert that's going to go up in the Zoom box or the chat box if it isn't already. But can you say a little bit about what difference it makes to have people talking directly to the congressional offices of the members who represent them?
Yes, no, absolutely. I really cannot overstate how important it is to have constituents talk to their representatives and their senators about how important this issue is, to build support for this in Congress, and then in turn to tell the administration that this is something that Congress is looking to do. President Biden has said some encouraging things about his desire to end forever wars, but we haven't seen any action yet. And it's similar with the Obama administration, frankly, similar with the Trump administration. They all wanted to end forever wars, but it didn't happen. In fact, especially under the Obama administration, they really expanded quite a lot. So the need for constituents to talk to their representatives about this and build support and elevate this issue is what's going to push it over the line. and we can reach out to officers and say to them, we really encourage you to co-sponsor this bill, and give them all of the legal and policy reasons why. But to actually have constituents say, this is something that is meaningful to me, this is something that I see as urgent, please co-sponsor this bill, please move this forward. That's what it's going to take to push things over the line. I should say, I mentioned that things are really going well in the House right now. We're really excited. They've taken up the mantle. It's the Senate and it's the administration that we really need to push. And one way to push them is to increase this House action that's happening, so that both the Senate and the administration see this as something that it's worth them getting on board with as well.
Yeah, can you, when we were talking in getting ready for this today, you mentioned that you thought that some of the FCNL advocacy teams had some effect on some members in signing on to, was it this year's legislation or was it before?
It's both, but I do know that there were 8 last week. There were 8 new co-sponsors. So yeah, 9 new co-sponsors, I'm sorry, added to the 2002 Iraq AUMF repeal bill, and at least 6 of those came through FCNL advocacy teams having meetings and encouraging their members to co-sponsor. So it is real, the impact that you are having. Incredible.
What a great success story. That's so encouraging. So so let's do the same in the Senate, right? Let's keep pushing forward.
Yes.
So Heather, let me just, I want to make sure people know that you can ask questions. You can put them in the chat, right? Type up your question. And I think we're going to have time to get to some of those in just a little bit. Heather does have a great deal of expertise in this area. And so feel free to ask her questions. And if she can't answer them today, we'll get back to you. But she definitely is an authority on this, on the Hill here in Washington, D.C. Let's talk just for a minute again about the Biden administration and the Pentagon, and what we might expect out of Secretary of Defense Austin in terms of any changes in this regard.
So, Secretary Austin was asked in his confirmation hearing what he thought about these AUMFs, and he gave a sort of very diplomatic answer, saying he would sort of look at what the people needed and sort of in terms of any sort of replacement AUMF or repeal of AUMF, but he certainly didn't express his own view of what should be happening. He's currently been tasked by President Biden to conduct a review of, US troops and their placement globally. And he's supposed to be conducting that in consultation with the Secretary of State and the State Department, which is really good to see, because this is a really important, diplomacy and all of the other things that department does, and Foreign Service have really been sort of pushed to the side when it comes to this whole issue. So we're curious to see what happens. We're concerned, though, that his review could come out and say, look, all of the operations that we're currently doing are needed. So we're happy that they're doing this review, that Secretary Austin is doing this review, but yeah, we are a little bit nervous to see what the results of this review might recommend.
Okay, I'm gonna start going to some questions because there are a lot already, and at some point I do want to make sure that we touch on you touched earlier on this being bipartisan, so I want to make sure that we speak to that, as well as maybe about some of our partners, because while FCNL has certainly put a great deal of energy and direction into this work, there are other partners that we've worked with who have been great colleagues as well. So one question is, Andrew Bell asked, can Biden veto a repeal of the war authorization? And if he can, is he likely to do so?
He certainly can veto a repeal of the Iraq war authorization or the 2001 AUMF. We are hopeful that he wouldn't, and that he would support this. They did say in the Democratic Party platform that they would look to repeal existing authorizations and replace them with a narrower framework. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we would rather see them be just completely repealed. But given that the 2002 Iraq AUMF is actually not being relied on independently for any current operations, repealing that law wouldn't affect what the Biden administration is currently doing at all. It's actually just considered a source of additional authority that reinforces their authority under the 2001 AUMF. So for that reason, we would actually be very hopeful that the Biden administration would support repeal and wouldn't veto it. Indeed, the Obama administration supported repeal of the 2002 Iraq AUMF. So this is very much consistent with that prior position.
Mark asks us if these bills that we're looking at now are different than what we advocated for in 2019, or how are these different?
They are not different. They are identical to what we advocated for in 2019. So, the work that FCNL advocacy teams and other members did to build support for those bills in 2019, we are taking that support and carrying it over into this. So it's been really wonderful.
And it's a great story, really, of how momentum sometimes takes a few years to build in Washington. I mean, change comes slowly, and then when it happens, it can be very powerful. So this really is an exciting year and exciting few months in front of us. Speaking of exciting, we have some, I think it looks like Margaret and Ed are going to be participating in a meeting with Senator Toomey's office tomorrow. And speaking of bipartisan, is there a particular message and that you'd want them to convey as they go into Senator Toomey's office?
That is an excellent question. Very timely. That's wonderful to hear that you're having this meeting. So I mentioned that the House is really moving along with this. We have the bill from Representative Barbara Lee. We don't yet have a Senate companion. And, the real leaders in the Senate are considered to be Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia and Senator Todd Young from Indiana, who did introduce a bill in the last Congress, SJ Res 13, for those who like bill numbers, that would have repealed the 2002 Iraq AUMF. So our ask for Senator Toomey would be to, encourage Senator Kaine and Senator Young to reintroduce that bill and show his support for them introducing that bill to repeal the 2002 AUMF.
That's great. So one more, let's see, I'm trying to kind of scroll through these questions. Was there any question that you wanted to throw out that there are a lot of questions here?
Well, Mary came in at the very beginning and want to give her a chance to ask her question. Mary Carnell asked about, and maybe this is sort of related to the bigger picture of demilitarization, but in sunsetting these AUMFs, and especially in the time of COVID, is there any advocacy or push around reconfiguring military assets towards civil service for COVID testing and vaccine efforts?
So that is certainly an important issue. It's separate, but very much related to the AUMF issue. It's part of, I would say, part of the forever war problem, but the AUMF is sort of separate. So right now, these repeal efforts unfortunately wouldn't sort of affect these, repurposing of military spending, but there are certainly efforts out there to reduce military spending. And I think even the Biden administration has indicated that this will likely happen this year. And, there is certainly hope that it will be used, those funds will be used to really protect the true national security threats that we are facing, like COVID, even like climate change, like domestic terrorism, those sorts of things. So we are hopeful that those reforms will also be made in addition to AUMF repeal efforts.
Ian from Massachusetts says that the rep and senators in Massachusetts all spoke of waiting until the NDAA or appropriations process goes forward, which is something that we've happened before. What's your sense about that? And just maybe to explain what the NDAA is for people who may not be familiar with it.
Sure. So the NDAA is the National Defense Authorization Act. It is a huge piece of legislation that authorizes the Department of Defense. And, over the years, it has also become a vehicle where lots of other departments and agencies are authorized because it's considered a must-pass piece of legislation. So it is a way of definitely getting legislation through. In 2019, we actually got a repeal of the 2002 Iraq AUMF attached to the House version of the NDAA. And unfortunately, that was stripped out at the very end when they were sort of conferencing the two versions between the House and the Senate. I would say that, the NDAA is one way of getting a repeal of these AUMFs through, but it is certainly not the only way. And, it's always helpful to move forward with a standalone vehicle before taking that route of adding it on to this must-pass legislation. So, I would say that it's incredibly important to move forward with a vehicle in the Senate, to build support in the Senate so that, we can be ready for either opportunity if they arise. It's possible that the House will pass a bill and they will send that to the Senate, and then the Senate has the opportunity to take it up. And if we've already built support in the Senate for that, then that will really increase the chances of getting that passed out of Congress. It's the same as if that was to go through the NDAA process. If we already had a bill in the Senate with a whole bunch of bipartisan co-sponsors, that's really going to increase the chances of getting it added to the NDAA in the first place and then keeping it in there in the end.
I just want to note that Marilyn Cleveland shares that the California folks are having a lobby visit in with the office of Senator Padilla tomorrow, which is also very exciting, a brand new senator, and opportunity to educate him and his staff on this issue. So that's really great. I want to go, Jonathan had a great question here. Jonathan Brown from Seattle said, are there any known existing operations, classified or unclassified, Pentagon or CIA, that would lose their legal basis if the 2001 AUMF were repealed or sunsetted?
2001 or 2002, sorry?
2001.
So yeah, 2001, all operations are being conducted under the 2001 AUMF right now. It's possible that there are some, CIA operations that are being conducted under the covert action statute, which we will not really be able to find out about. But the 2001 AUMF is the authority for all current operations. As far as the 2002 Iraq AUMF, however, if that were repealed tomorrow, it would affect nothing. So all existing operations could continue if that one was repealed. But the 2001 AUMF is the big one, and it's more complicated, which is why we're starting with 2002, because we want to galvanize this support, get a win on this. This would be the first time that Congress has voted to repeal an AUMF in 20 years, and then move on to tackling that sort of more complicated AUMF, which is the 2001 AUMF.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification too, because it is, people can get easily confused about both of those, and getting, that 2002 seems like something we can achieve, we hope early, and then to move forward to the 2001 is so important. Heather, we have just a few minutes left, and I want to give you time for closing, but could you just say a little bit more about Guantanamo and the opportunity here? It is almost like we've forgotten about it, this, horrendous prison that was set up, and, mentioning that 25 people remain there who haven't even been charged. And who will hold, what's the accountability here? First of all, is it possible to close it, and what's the accountability?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. So, the Guantanamo has held 780 prisoners in total. President Bush actually reduced a whole bunch of those down to about 242 when President Obama took office, and he had intended to close the prison, but, for various reasons kind of slowed down and tried to, make things work and was unable to do so. And by the time he left office, there were 41 prisoners there. There are currently 10 detainees who are in the military commissions process, which is a war court for war crimes that is held in Guantanamo, which most people don't even realize exists. There are actually 5 co-defendants who have been charged in relation to carrying out the 9/11 attacks. And, the families of victims have flown down whenever they have hearings for this case. They haven't had any closure. People who lost loved ones have passed away and received no closure for those. And, then as you just mentioned, Diane, there are 25 people who have never been charged with a crime. There are actually 5 people who have been cleared for transfer out of the prison, but have yet to be transferred. 3 of those people were cleared in 2009. And, one of the reasons they weren't transferred was because they were from Yemen, and, Yemen was too dangerous to send them back to. So the Obama administration negotiated a lot of transfers to third countries to accept these people. But, they said sort of slowed down a bit, and then they started speeding up towards the end of the administration, but never quite got there. And then, the Trump administration, they didn't have a policy of closing the prison or of transferring anybody out. There was only one person transferred out, and that was because of a court order. So it remains this really black stain on the US. There were 2 torture sites there. All of the people who were being charged in the 9/11 trial were tortured. And there's actually a really fantastic film, well, I've heard it's fantastic, called The Mauritanian, right, that is coming out shortly, about one of the detainees who was there, Mohamedou Slahi. He's actually the author of the Guantanamo Diaries. People might have heard of that. But it's supposed to be really fantastic. So there are still efforts to close the prison. The Biden administration is currently conducting a review of the prison with a goal towards closing it, he said, by the time that he leaves office, which, if that is 8 years away, that is a long time away. So we would like to see it happen much sooner. And it can be done even without Congress. The people who have been cleared for transfer can certainly be transferred out. Those who haven't been charged with a crime, they can either, charge them with something, perhaps in US federal court. And an option that has been given is to allow them to even plead guilty via video conference. And that's the same for those who are in the Guantanamo military commission system who have been charged with war crimes. So, between being able to transfer out everybody who is cleared or who can be cleared, and then, doing these guilty pleas and then transferring people outside of the US to serve their sentences, that is a way for the Biden administration to be able to close the prison, even if Congress doesn't lift its restrictions that are currently in place on bringing anybody to the US.
Thank you, Heather. I could see that it would be great to have you come back in a few months and share more about what's happened with the 2002 AUMF, an update on the 2001, and an update on Guantanamo. I mean, you have such a deep reservoir of knowledge. I'm sorry that we didn't get to quite every question, because there actually are still some great questions in the chat, but we've come to the end of our time together. Any closing remarks, Heather?
I just want to say thank you so much to you, Diane, and Wesley and Adlai, and all of our wonderful donors and supporters for organizing this event and for having me here. And just want to sort of reiterate, we would really love you to go and meet with your representatives and encourage them to co-sponsor HR 256 to repeal the 2002 Iraq AUMF, or if they have already co-sponsored the bill, to thank them and ask them to get their friends in Congress to join them. And also, if you're meeting with your senators or their staffers, to either get them to encourage Senators Tim Kaine and Todd Young to reintroduce their bill to repeal the 2002 AUMF. Or if they happen to be your senators, Kaine and Young, to thank them for all the work they've done on trying to repeal this law and reassert congressional authority, and ask them to reintroduce their great bill.
Thank you, Heather. And thanks to the support staff here who put more information in the chat and responding to some of the questions. Let me just end by saying we are really grateful to all of you for joining us for this chat today on this very, very important issue. We are grateful to you for your financial support and for your moral support and encouragement to all of us, as well as for your advocacy. Keep it up. We need you. I want to let you know that in 2 weeks, I'm going to be joined by a couple of our staff. I think it'll be Larissa and Cameron, who are in the young adult program. Actually, Larissa manages the advocacy corps. And as many of you know, we have a spring lobby weekend for young adults that's coming up March 20th through the 22nd. And it's going to be on justice and policing. And it's going to be a virtual event, but very exciting. It's a great opportunity. So any young adults in your network or your Quaker meetings or wherever you are, encourage them to check it out on our website. Again, thank you so much, Heather, for joining us, and to all of our friends on the call. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. you.